Hello and welcome to the Collecting Scars podcast. My name is Sydney Olson. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I really appreciate that you're here. This episode is really special for a number of reasons. One of them is because this is actually the first time I am uploading one of my podcast episodes to YouTube. I've been wanting to do it for a while. I've been asked by many people to do it for a while, so I am recording this intro, and then I also recorded the Zoom that I had with my guest, Emma, and you'll be able to watch it on YouTube if you want. If you're just tuning in from Apple or Spotify, that's also totally fine, but I just wanted to explain this quick because, yeah, it's something that makes me a little nervous. I never wanted this podcast to feel inauthentic in any way, and sometimes it's a lot more intimidating to talk to a camera than it is to a microphone, but right now it feels pretty easy, so I want to give the people what they want as far as that is concerned. So now you'll be able to watch some of these episodes on YouTube as well. And for those that are watching on YouTube, I'm also going to upload some previous episodes, but they might not have video because some of them were just taken just from the microphone. So I'll put some of them on here. And then future episodes will likely be uploaded to YouTube as well so that you can watch them there. So this episode was a great episode. It is with Emma Ritchie. She is a fast friend that I made. She's a relationship expert. She does energy clearings that are absolutely amazing. And in this episode, we talk all about relationships. We talk about why it's so hard to let go of an ex, relationships as mirrors for our growth, triggers from family and what to do when you're triggered and some of the perspective shifts around that, and the relationship with yourself, how to date yourself, how to have compassion and let go of things from the past. So I really hope that you guys enjoy this episode. I know that I did, and I can't wait for you guys to give it a listen and let me know if you love this episode. Please share it if you did. I really want this podcast to be able to get on the map a little bit more. This is something that I'm truly passionate about, and I've been doing it for a little bit now. I want to keep going and want to make these episodes super consistent. And yeah, so if you guys loved it, please share it, leave a review, leave a rating. And without further ado, let's welcome Emma Ritchie to the Collecting Scars podcast. Emma, thank you so much for joining me on the Collecting Scars podcast. I'm really grateful to have you here today. And the way we met was so interesting because it was at Peter Crohn's retreat. And when you were there, you came up to me and you started talking, and I just felt this warmness from you. And I was just thinking, wow, she just feels like she is so self-aware, has such attention to herself in such a spiritual way. And I just wanted to reflect that to you because it was the first thing I noticed about you.
Oh, well, thank you so much for, first of all, it's lovely to be here and thanks for having me. And also, thank you for such a lovely reflection. And it's really beautiful to hear that because, yeah, it's really interesting, like when people reflect back at you, like what they see. And I'm like, oh, I hadn't really thought about that myself, you know? So thank you so much. But like, I remember you because I remember seeing you on one of Peter Crohn's videos being coached, and then I met you in person, and I was just, yeah, it was just an instant connection when I came up and had a chat. And yeah, I'm just super grateful to be here, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I felt the exact same way. So before we get into all things relationships, I would love to have you get into, for those who don't know you, could you share a little bit about your story and what led you to this current version of who you are today?
Wow, okay, I'll try and bullet point this because it's as with all of us, it's quite a story. But essentially I would say I grew up in a really beautiful extended family. But when I was 3 years old, my dad got really sick, and he actually passed away just before my fifth birthday. And so my mum was a single mum with two of us. And she met somebody, I'd say reasonably quickly, who was quite a bit younger than her. And they got married. So he was 21, my mum was 31, and a widow with two kids. So you can kind of just have a look at those dynamics and how they would have played out. But essentially, they were together for 3 years, I'm sorry, 6 years. And really, what happened through that relationship is there was a lot of cheating, a lot of arguing. And really, by the time I was 12, that relationship was over. And so, really, my upbringing, I guess you could kind of say, was very much guided through this masculine energy, kind of always leaving or being violent or being aggressive. And really that is the kind of like the learnings that I took into what relationships were. And that kind of led me into similar relationships through my sort of 20s and early 30s. And that really has led me to be where I am now, which is to really be passionate about helping people understand relationships. And really, the most important relationship you're ever going to have is the one with yourself. And if you don't believe that you're worthy, if you don't believe that you deserve love, if you have a very twisted view of what love is, it can be really, really hard to navigate intimate and, non-intimate friendships as well. So yeah, that's a kind of bullet point of my story, really.
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. And I didn't know that about your dad, so I'm sorry to hear that you went through that at such a young age. But ultimately, as we both know, all these experiences that we have lead us to where we are, which is so beautiful that you're able to help so many people through that today. So I would love to get into the relationship aspect of it. So in your Instagram bio, you say, I help people let go of their ex and step into confidence and attract healthy relationships. So,
Yes.
yes, there's so many people I know that could really use this help because
Yeah.
there's so many people I know personally navigating a breakup or maybe they've been looking for a relationship for a while. So, first, I'd love to ask, why is it so hard for people to let go of someone even when they know that the relationship wasn't really healthy for them?
Yeah, it's such a good question. So, I mean, all of us, and for anyone that's listening as well, it's like, if we've gone through a breakup, we understand that when we break up with somebody, we're physically separated from them, right? So it's like we're not going to see each other anymore, whether that's for a few weeks or months or whatever. It's like there's a physical separation. But every single relationship that you have in your life leaves an energetic imprint on you. And I'll just use myself as an example. Even when I went through one of my breakups, I was with him for 5 years. And when we broke up, it took me hand on heart probably about 3 years to fully let go of that relationship. And it had been really toxic. But what I realize now is there was like an energetic cord between us. And he would keep coming into my life. He'd send me emails, he'd send me messages, all the time. And every time I allowed him to do that, it was like he was accessing my energy again. So, from a breakup perspective, yes, you can physically end something with someone. You could move to the other side of the world. But if there is trapped emotion, if there is anger, if there's frustration, if there's jealousy, or, even if there is just this energetic cord between the two of you, that needs to be tidied up, that's why you're holding on to the energy of somebody else. And especially, I'm not going to get too graphic with this, but especially as women, there is so much research now that shows like when you are intimate with somebody, as a woman especially, you are taking on the energy of that person. So there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the physical form, that needs a little bit of tidying up. So yeah.
That makes so much sense. And I'd never really thought about the taking in the energy as a woman, but that makes a lot of sense, seeing as we are kind of the receiver in that aspect. So, with that, if someone is, let's say, talking to their ex and they still kind of have this energetic entanglement with them, what would you say is the first step to kind of like separating from that?
Yeah, great question. I'm actually working with someone at the moment who is in this space. It's like this person keeps coming in and out of their lives. I mean, ultimately, this isn't the relationship is just a mirror to what's going on with you. So if somebody keeps coming in, and obviously I don't know the full details, but if you keep allowing somebody to keep coming in and out of your life, for me, that would imply that it would be a really good thing to start really looking at your boundaries, really look at what you are allowing into your field and why. And a lot of the time, there could be old childhood programming. It's kind of like, oh, like I don't matter, or like I'm not loved. And all of a sudden, this person keeps coming back into your life, and you're like, oh my God, I'm loved again. I'm loved again. So a lot of it can be childhood programming, a lot of it can be energy. I mean, I'm not going to go into this too much, but is a lot of people out there that would talk about past lives and just like that energy of whatever agreement you had in the past life, you know, that person keep coming in until that's resolved. But I would say really the first point of call is to probably, if you're on your own, is just to pull out a journal and just be like, why am I allowing this? And actually really look inwards rather than looking at this person and their behavior.
Absolutely. I really agree with that quote. You are that which you seek. And so, everything that we want externally, we already have within us. But then the same goes for the opposite. Like if you keep attracting something that you don't want in your life, you're kind of the common denominator there. It's something to look at. So I
Yeah.
really appreciate that we can get into that. So,
Yeah, completely. Yeah.
yeah. So let's say this person's journaling, they're realizing like I'm the common denominator in this situation. Like I keep attracting this same person over and over and over. What is it like? How can this person then set better boundaries within themselves? Like what can they do from that point on to like let's say trying to think of a good example of this, but let's say someone attracts cheaters into their life over and over and over again. Every relationship they have kind of ends the same way, where the person cheats on them, and then they either they stay or they break up or whatever it may be, but they keep attracting this same situation. What's the next thing they can do?
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, first of all, it's just acknowledging how painful that would be, you know, and I completely resonate. I went through in my 20s, three of my 2-year relationships that I had were all with people that cheated. And so, first of all, it's recognizing the pattern. It's like, okay, I'm aware now that I keep attracting the same person. So it's like, okay, it's not to put the fault on yourself. That's another thing not to do, because you know people outside of you can say to you, oh, you know, like, what are you doing? You must be doing something wrong. You need to change this, you need to change this. And it's actually not your fault. What I would say it is, if you keep doing that, is there is something in your energy field that is allowing people to come in your you know, and it will be to do with your energy and your boundaries. So really, it's a blind spot that people have, but I would say it's definitely connected to your lack of self-worth, your lack of self-value. So in terms of what an action would be to do that, or to, you know, work through that, I would actually recommend having some time alone and really taking a break from the dating scene and really using that time to date yourself and really look at the areas where you overgive, look at the areas where you allow, where maybe you don't speak up for yourself, and really spend that time with yourself. And if you can, it's harder to do a little bit by yourself, but this is where like coaching or mentoring or reaching out to somebody can really help, because we have these blind spots. Talking to your friends is going to get you so far. They're going to give you some advice like, oh, just get yourself back out there. He's out there. It's a numbers game or whatever. And that if you keep attracting the same kind of person into your life, this is the time to really do a lot of inner work, a lot of self-reflection, and also clean up your energy.
Absolutely love that. That is such a great answer to that. Another thing that I noticed that you post a bit about on Instagram that I just love is you always talk about this idea of dating yourself. So,
Mm.
what does that look like? How can someone start dating themselves?
Yeah, so I'm going to be completely honest. My mentor that I work with at the start of this year told me to do this. And it was really uncomfortable at the start of the year. I was like, oh my God, I don't know how to date myself. But essentially dating yourself is like, if you want somebody on the outside to look at you and be like, you are the most precious, amazing, wonderful thing ever, then are you feeling that way about yourself? That is what dating yourself is. It's about falling in love with yourself so that when you do meet somebody on the outside, you have so much and I know self-love is thrown around, but you love yourself so much that your boundaries are solid. You don't even have to say them. You've got so much self-respect. So dating yourself really starts by, writing a love letter to yourself. Like, from your future lover. and actually saying what it is that you would want that future lover to say about you. And then looking at yourself and going, am I actually being that for myself? Like, am I being respectful of my boundaries? So just to give you an example, in the letter that I wrote to myself, I was saying, how much of a good, like, I admire how much of a good friend you are. I admire how much time you dedicate for yourself. I admire how you take care and nurture your body. I love the way that you sing and dance and you put music on and dance around. So as I'm writing this to myself, I'm like, okay, am I doing this? Am I nurturing my body? Am I loving myself? Am I dancing and singing? Because I know that makes me feel good. And your energy, when you are loving yourself, when you date yourself, when you really start to fall in love with yourself and actually start doing the things that you love, not to please other people, but for yourself, your energy will shift. When your energy shifts, it goes up, right? That's when you're doing the things that you love, that bring you joy, your energy goes up. And that's what people are attracted to. They're not attracted to your body shape or size. They're not attracted to your hair color. They're not attracted to, how much money you have in the bank. They're attracted to you. And so dating yourself is really about falling in love with you, falling in love with the things that you love to do. And as you do that, your energy just rises. And that's where you become even more attractive than you already are.
What a beautiful answer. And it's so funny because I always have an example of this where I'm like really sweaty, just came from the gym, and that's when I get hit on the most.
That's exactly the same. Yeah, it's so funny because you feel good, right? You've got all these endorphins, and you're like, you're probably like flush-faced and just kind of like buzzing because you've been listening to all this music. And yeah, I mean, of course, that's when your energy's the highest, when you've been doing something that you love and you're straight out of it.
Yeah,
That makes total.
sorry, what were you saying?
Oh no, I said it makes total sense.
Yeah, it actually does. But I love what you were saying too, because I think if we ultimately get into this idea of dating ourselves, and we don't really need someone else to complete us, because that's just the common misconception you hear from everybody else is they want a relationship to add something to their life, but really you are that which you seek. So if you're comfortable being with yourself and you love yourself fully, like you said, you're going to have strong boundaries and you don't necessarily need a relationship. So that's when one that's really aligned can come in because then you're not afraid to say no to the potentials out there.
Absolutely. And I think and I can speak from my own experience of this, and this is what I see with a lot of people that I work with as well. If you think about, for anyone who's very visual, if you think about an orange and you think about slicing that orange in two, right? So we are programmed to walk around as I'm half of the orange and I'm looking for my other half of the orange to complete me, to make me whole. But it's not about that. It's about being the whole orange yourself, really loving being that orange and then attracting another whole orange. Otherwise, what you do is I'm this half, I'm looking for the other half to complete me. And actually, what you're doing is you're putting a lot of pressure on the relationship to like heal you into a whole orange, if that makes sense. It's kind of like you're coming in hard, you're saying, I need you to be this for me to be okay. And when you behave this way, then I'll be okay. And people, two people are going to come from two different perspectives. Not everyone can be everything. And so this is really a journey of like becoming whole, really truly like living your life the way that you want to, doing things that make you feel good, taking care of yourself, nourishing yourself in whatever way that is that feels aligned, and coming into the idea of a relationship as a whole human being that doesn't need anyone else to fix them or save them.
Absolutely. And I just want to say too, because this work can also be done if you're in a relationship as well and you're already like married or whatever. Because when I first started dating my husband, I definitely was very insecure and I expected him to kind of be a lot of things for me. And I look back on it and I can see why I expected that. But as I kind of shifted my own perspective and started getting in tune with what I really needed from myself, that I was outsourcing to him or, even other people like my friends and stuff. When I was able to give that to myself, it made our relationship so much stronger.
Yeah, it's so good. And that's a really good point as well, because I think there's this idea, I love that you just mentioned, when you met that, you had some insecurities, because I think there's also this idea of like, oh, I'll have to be perfect before I can meet somebody. And when I talk about being whole, I'm just talking about just live your life, have fun, do the things that bring you joy. Don't go out there like looking for love. Realize like it's in you as long as you're like living the life that you want to live. But it's definitely not about being perfect before you meet somebody, because absolutely you're going to meet and we're all going to have our own stuff, and the relationship is really going to reflect those things back at both of you.
Yeah, I really think relationships are our biggest chance for growth because, and it can be from anyone. It doesn't have to be someone that you're intimate with, but just every single relationship in your life, like the relativity of it is basically what is showing you where you're at. Like whether it's friendships, whether it's a relationship, your family. Oh my God, right? Your family. What's that quote by Ram Dass? Like, if you think you're enlightened, go spend a week with your family. That one is.
Exactly. Yeah.
I'd like to touch on that real quick because a lot of people will, and I get a lot of people's circumstances with their family are extreme sometimes, and I do understand and I have compassion for those people. But what do you say to someone that's like, oh my God, I have to go spend time with my family? They're so not enlightened. And they're like, this person saying this isn't aware of like the blind spot they have about expecting these things from other people. What would you say to that person?
Yeah, well, I mean, that was probably me about 2 years ago. So yeah, I can really speak to that person. So I think what it is just first of all, it's just an awareness that everybody is on their own journey, and there are different levels of consciousness. There are, for example, okay, I'll just talk about myself. So growing up, like I've already given you a bit of an explanation of my childhood. So in my 20s, I actually had, and actually early 30s, I had a lot of anger towards my mum for some of the choices that she had made. And I love my mum so, so much, but my mum has been such a big trigger for me. And every time I spent time with her, I was just pretty obnoxious actually. I'd roll my eyes, I'd be like, oh God, she's off on one of her things again. But even that is not being very conscious or very loving. And I understand people have some really horrendous childhoods, and I'm not saying, you need to forgive and forget and move on. But what I would say is, really, our families, when we choose to come in with that family, is that they're really there to trigger us. And, if something is triggering you, whether it's your mom, your dad, your brother, your sister, if someone is triggering you, that is such an amazing opportunity to look within and kind of go, okay, this is making me feel really angry, and really start to look at why that is. Why is this anger here? Like, what is it about this situation? What is it about what's been said that, maybe this connects to an incident that happened when I was 8 years old, and this is my 8-year-old inner child just being angry because she couldn't express herself then. But now, can I express myself? There's so many, like, I love triggers now, and I used to run away from them. If anyone triggered me, I'd be like, ugh, don't want to be around that person. But now I'm like, ooh, what's going on here? Like, yeah, why am I feeling like this around this person?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I mean, coming into sort of holiday season, obviously it's going to be amplified, and you're going to be around your family. But I would say, if possible, can you just sort of take a step back from it all and just look at it and go, this is just a big pantomime, and mum, dad, grandma, brother, sister, they're just playing a part. And can I just take a step back from this and just witness it and not be in it? Um, because when you're in it, like that's where the triggers really are.
Absolutely. Yeah, triggers are such a beautiful thing. And I used to be really scared of them as well. And I would just like cut off people that I didn't want to be triggered by. I was like, oh, they're the problem because they're triggering me, which sounds
Yeah.
very victim consciousness because I'm blaming someone for something that's like could be resolved within myself. And I think my life totally changed as a result when I was willing to just get curious about what that means. And especially in terms of my family, I just want to use my own example too. My relationship with my family has improved so much over the last like 2 years. Just as a result of being interested in my triggers rather than assuming that I just shouldn't be around these people that do that. So, yeah, anyway, my mom and my dad specifically, like I've always loved them. They've always been great parents, but of course there's a lot of things that I could look at from my childhood that I could be pissed off at them about. And something that also really helped me is kind of identifying them as people too, like rather than mom and dad, they're Norm and Tiffany, and they're experiencing life for the first time as well. So, and it's not to say that every situation should just be forgiven and let go of, because of course there are some really hard things that people have gone through. But it's, yeah, just seeing them for they're not perfect, you're not perfect, I'm not perfect, and it just go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that. I love like giving your parents their actual name, because also it's just remembering like your parents just came to earth like maybe 25, like in my case, my mum was 27. So my mum, was born onto this planet like 27 years before me, and she inherited everything from her mum and dad. And, they were a very working class family. Like my mum was born in 1953, like women were treated very differently. And, all she's done is just pass on what she learned to me. So really, I think when you start seeing it as that, rather than like, oh, like my parent just came to earth like 25 years before me and inherited all the crap from their parents, or not necessarily crap, it might be good stuff as well. And when you just start to see it like that, it allows you just to kind of like allow people just to be.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that just makes such a big difference too, because then when they can just be who they are, it kind of allows you to be more of who you are. And then this wall sort of comes down too, and you're able to connect on such a deeper level because, yeah, the last thing your parents want to hear, especially if you've been like working on yourself, is just like, oh my God, like, why don't you work on yourself? And your parents, like, what are you talking about? I gave birth to you. And it's this whole thing.
I worked every day of my life. It's so true. And I think that's the other thing in all relationships as well, is that energy of like trying to fix, right? And I think as women, well, women and men actually, there's this aspect to all of us where we're like, if I just fix you, if you just do it this way, if you just become a more compassionate, better listener, then I'll be okay. I need you to be this way so I can be okay. And that's the same in intimate relationships as well. It's like, if you behave like this, the way that I want you to behave, we won't have any problems. But that is not the way that it works. In all relationships, there's more than one person, and it's about navigating that together.
Absolutely. Definitely takes two to tango. And yeah, that's just such a perfect explanation. I don't really feel the need to add anything there. But one thing that I would love to address is someone that feels like they did something wrong in a relationship in the past, or like they're stuck on something from the past in a previous relationship, or maybe even in their own relationship that they haven't quite let go of. How can they get out of being stuck in that and be able to move forward?
Yeah, cool. That's a good one. We've all been there, right? I definitely have experienced is, yeah, I've come out of a relationship, and what it is, it's you know this through your own work as well. It's this real holding energy. It's like this idea of it should have been different. If only I'd done this, it could have been different. And when you live like that, what you're doing is you're putting a huge amount of pressure on yourself, but you're also living in this world that just does not exist. There's no going back. There's no changing anything at all. But what you're doing is you're living in a present moment right here, but you're carrying like all the pain of the should and the woulds and the could have with you. And I mean, it's really, really hard when you're in it. But again, I would say if you're really feeling like that, it's about really having some compassion for yourself, first of all, and actually, you know, I'm really reflecting on my own experience of this, because yeah, I'll just share this because it might help somebody. But I was in a relationship where it was only 3 months. It was only a 3-month relationship. This is a few years ago now, but it was one of those relationships where it completely and utterly rocked me in the aftermath, and it was my choice to walk away. But what I did is I blamed myself so much for even getting involved in this with this relationship in the first place. And I really berated myself. I betrayed my intuition. It had been there at the start, and I beat myself up every single day, like in my mind, about why I'd allowed this to be. But I will say it was one of the greatest teachers because it was the turning point for all of this work and actually realizing, I had had poor boundaries. I'd allowed myself to get involved with this person. Um, so if I could go back and speak to that version of myself, I would actually say that every single relationship that you're in carries a lesson, and stop holding on to what you should have done and start to focus on what is it that you've learned about yourself through this relationship. What did this relationship come into your life for to teach you? Because that is the reason for everything. The reflection is, yeah, it's there in every single relationship. So look for the lesson. Don't look for your flaws or what you could have or should have done wrong. Start to focus on what it is that you need to learn from, or you get to learn from this.
Amazing. And I think this applies to just so many things in life besides just relationships too. There's always something to be learned from
Yeah.
experiences that we don't prefer, right? Because not everything is going to be easy in life, and there's going to be a lot of resistance around things. And some of that is going to carry some very heavy lessons to learn that are going
Yeah.
to propel you forward. And I just want to speak to what you just said because I have a friend that went through a very similar situation in a relationship. And we were talking and she was just beating herself up for having gone through that. She's like, what in me attracted that? And again, I think there's this really hard part about this work where, we start taking accountability and we see that we're the common denominator, but then we start thinking that if we attract something like that, then we did something wrong. And I'd love to
Yeah.
speak to that for a second because I've noticed that a lot with people that do this type of work. So what would you say to those people that are like, oh my God, like I did something wrong, or like, why did I attract that? Like, what am I doing wrong?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially, yeah, you're absolutely right. And especially because people are, in this like our world, they're doing a lot of work on themselves. There's this idea of like, but I'm raising my vibration, but I've done like 15 hypnotherapy sessions and I do breath work and I do this, and like, why does this keep happening to me? And what I would say is every single relationship comes into your life for a reason. So even though I feel like I have done an absolute shed load of work on myself, I have really no way of knowing what is about to come into my life. I might meet the most amazing person and be with them for the rest of my life, and that is it, and it's bliss and beauty. Or it might be that that person is maybe two more dating experiences away because there's still a lesson to come in. So I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to kind of be like, but I need to attract the perfect one. And it's like, you are the perfect one. Like, this is about your journey, and you are going to keep attracting people into your life to show you like the lessons and show you to come back home to yourself. And just like we started, the greatest relationship you're ever going to have is the one with yourself. It doesn't mean that just because you meditate every single day, that there isn't this other dialogue going on in the back of your mind that just needs a bit of tidying up. And maybe you need to date someone for 6 months to realize, oh, that needs tidying up. That's the lesson. So I really have so much compassion because I know when you're in it and when you are blaming yourself like so much and beating yourself up, but really, is that being the greatest relationship that you ever want to have with yourself if you're being that mean to yourself? Instead, can you just love and accept the version of you that allowed this person to come into your life and go, okay, we're going to grow from this?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Oh,
but
thank
it
you.
is tough. Yeah.
Sure, for sure. And I feel like I've been there, done that with a lot of things in my life. And I think the other lesson there too, especially if someone that's listening is reflecting on the past and they like look at an old version of themselves and they have a lot of shame around that version, maybe for attracting a relationship like that, or maybe just for something that they've done, And I would encourage that listener to really look at that shame and why there's so much there and where that came from, why you thought that that's okay, that's not okay to be where you were at that time with the knowledge that you had, because guaranteed like anyone else that was in that position would have done the same thing if they had your exact life. So I think it's a really beautiful way that you phrase that, saying always come back to you and always come back to just nourishing yourself. And if that person's really blaming themselves for something that happened in the past, it would be a good time to just start reflecting on that and giving yourself the love and compassion that you want other people to give you.
Yeah, yeah. It's so important because I think that is the thing, when you're carrying around that shame or that blame, and it might be like so subconscious as well, like you might not even be aware of it. But when you're carrying that around and then you're saying like these affirmations or like I'm calling in my soulmate and I'm calling in this, it's like you are going to call in your soulmate for where you are in your life. Like as in your soulmate doesn't have to be the person that you're with for the rest of your life. It can just be another soul that's coming in to teach you a lesson, to allow you to, again, just come back home to yourself. Like, if you're carrying around a lot of shame and blame, it's like, can I be with that part of me that felt that shame? Can I allow it's all inner child stuff, it's all comes back to like childhood and growing up, and it's just like we're carrying around so much. And if we don't allow ourselves to like love all parts of ourselves, and that includes the parts of us that feels ashamed or blames herself or judges herself or himself, or criticize, even if we can't love that critic that comes in, what we're doing is we're splitting ourselves into different parts and being like, that is a part of me that I don't like. I don't like it when I judge people. I don't like it when I blame myself. So I'm going to push it out to the side. And it's like, no, can you love all parts of you? And that includes the parts that maybe are a little bit harder to like.
Absolutely. I read something somewhere that was saying what true self-love was, and it was so beautifully written. I can't remember what book it was in. I think it was Conscious Loving by Gay Hendricks. If anyone's interested in reading that one, it was a really good read. But he said something along the lines of true self-love is loving the dark parts of you as equally as the parts of your light. And that is like what really, really makes you whole.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like, I mean, we talked about this last time we spoke, but it was, just even this idea of like, for both of us, I feel we had this where it was like just to sit down or lay down and watch TV, felt lazy. It was like, oh, I'm being lazy if I'm not doing something, right? But it's like, can you just sit on the couch and actually be like, yeah, I'm okay with being here. Like, I can love the fact that I'm watching TV and I can be okay with it, and obviously that doesn't connect to relationships, but it can be that subtle. It's like, can I love the fact that, maybe I didn't stick to the diet or whatever today, can I just be like, okay, that's okay,
Yeah.
so it's just about giving ourselves a break, because again, when it comes to like attracting people into our lives, if we don't fully love all parts of ourselves, how on earth can we expect somebody else, or, that's so much pressure to put onto another person to be like, I need you to love this part of me that I don't even like. Like, how is that even going to work, And then this turns into oh, he doesn't love me, he doesnn't show, or she, I'm saying he just, because of our preferences, but it kind of turns into these conversations where it's like, he doesn't do this, she doesn't do this, da 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 da, I'm not fulfilled. And it's just like, are you fulfilled in yourself? Like, it come back to you always.
Always, always. And I love that you use the example of kind of just things outside of the relationship too, which I do think eventually does still what is the word that I'm working on? Sorry, a little bit of brain fog today. Um, yeah, it still kind of informs relationships with others too, because if I'm saying to myself that it's not okay that I feel bloated today, then like, what are other people like? Why am I expecting them to tell me it's okay? It's like when I ask my husband, like, would you still love me if I'm a worm? Like, It's like, would I love myself if I'm a worm? Like, I don't even love myself when I'm like bloated, right? So it's like one of those things that is a really, really great thing to nurture. And I actually had that happen the other day. I woke up, I felt very bloated, and I was just like, and I sat there with myself and I was like, wow, what if I actually just was okay with the fact that I have a fluctuation every once in a while in my body, and that's totally fine. And it literally went away as quickly as it came on, just because
Of
I was
course.
making space for it. Yeah.
Was, yeah, because you accepted it. You just kind of allowed it to be. And then it's like that's the thing. That's the thing with all of these emotions, all these self-judgments that we have, everything. When we just allow it to be there, like, and I used to really, I'm actually gonna say this really clearly because, when I used to, I kind of grew up just obviously with my childhood, there wasn't a lot of room for like my emotions. And so I felt very exposed. I always felt like I had to be happy. I was the positive one. I had to fix everything. My mum was going through this. I had to make her happy. And there just wasn't the space for my sadder or lower vibration emotions, right? And so everyone, as I started to get older, I was just kind of like amazed at people crying in front of people. I was always like, wow, that's really brave. Like, I wouldn't do that. Like, it was, I mean, how messed up is that, right?
I fully
Um,
relate. So,
that's so cool. But what's really interesting is people would just be like, yeah, just sit with it. Just sit with the emotion. And I was like, what does that even mean? And so when I got sad, I would just sit with the sadness, but then it would carry on for so long. And I'd be like, that wasn't a clear direction. And what I understand now is, can I be with it? Can I just allow it? I don't have to sit in it and sit in the emotion and sit in the sadness, but can I just be with it? Can I allow it to be there? Yeah, that's easy. And then it dissipates and then it dissolves. But I feel like there was such a messaging of like sitting in it, like in it. And I didn't understand that. And yeah, I just wanted to share that just because that really helped me shift how I was processing emotions.
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. If you're just sitting in an emotion, you're not kind of looking at it as an observer. So
Mm-mm.
like being able to kind of sit with it and sit like not sit in it, but what was the word that you used? You said be with
Be with it. Yeah, be with it.
it. Kind of
Yeah.
implies that there's more of like an observational part to it too. Like you can be sad and also understand, like you can hold two truths. I'm sad and I know that this is what's best for me in this moment. Like this is for my highest good. It's going to be okay, right? It's holding both of those truths, and I think the more we can accept it, the more we can see both of those.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And also, I think as well with those emotions, it's about remembering that, like, when there's those big emotions that come up, they're not always connected to what's going on. There's like an inner child that, maybe didn't feel like it could express that emotion. And so I always feel like that's really nice as well. When I sort of say to the clients that I work with, and I'm like, just be with the emotion, but I'm like, just imagine yourself at 7 having to deal with this and creating this thing in your ego like nobody loves me, I don't matter, and just be with that, like, inner child, that 7-year-old, and give them a freaking hug and set them on the way and let them go and play, because you don't want any child to feel those emotions, but really that's what's going on a lot inside of all of us, is this childhood mindset is playing out into our adult life.
Yeah. Every fight that you see in a relationship too is usually just two people regressing into like that childhood thing. Or it's not really regressing, but it is more of just like that's the inner child bubbling to the surface. So I love that you were able to touch on that.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
There's one thing that you mentioned before that I just want to touch on real quick, and then we should probably start wrapping this up. But one of them was you were talking about like how you felt this responsibility to make other people happy. And something that I notice in a lot of relationships, and I used to have it in a previous relationship of mine too, where I felt very responsible for the other person's happiness. So I would love for you to just speak to that and kind of what you've found out about it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, again, probably I'll just use myself as the example because that's quite easy. But I think maybe if you have grown up in a household where, you felt like you needed to perform for love, Or it might have been, in my case, my dad was very sick. So as a 3-year-old, I wouldn't have been that aware of what was going on, but it was like probably I can only imagine it would have been like, be quiet, don't make noise, don't upset your dad, and then, obviously the aftermath of my dad dying, like I don't have too many memories, but I can imagine my mum and my family would have been very distressed. And so it would have been this sense of, wow, this kind of like responsibility for, like, for me it was kind of like, what can I do to make people happy, what can I do to raise it up? And you hear about this a lot actually with comedians. A lot of comedians come from depressed parents.
Mm.
There's a lot of because they were just like, I have to make people laugh, I have to like stop my mum or dad from being depressed. And so it really depends on your childhood and what's going on. But I would say one of the greatest things that I have learned is actually like, I am responsible for my happiness and, what brings me joy. And when you take care of your own energy, what you do is you actually raise the vibration for other people. You don't need to go in there and make anyone else happy or fix anybody. You just don't come down to their level because you are taking care of your own energy and what brings, you joy and makes you feel good. But I really think a lot of that does come back to childhood programming. If you grew up with like a six sibling, it's like, where do your needs matter? Like, you can really see in childhood whatever's happened, it will play out in adulthood in your behavior.
Absolutely. So before we close up, I'd love to know if there was one thing that the audience could take away from this, what would you want that to be?
Oh, I would say really simply, start meditating. That would be my first thing. Do whatever you can to get out of your head and into your heart. And that means get out of the thinking mind. Really do whatever you can to get out of your thinking mind and to really take responsibility for having fun and doing the things that bring you joy, and really start loving yourself. Start loving the parts of yourself that you were taught were not lovable. Like, really learn how to do that before you look for anybody else to do that for you.
Wow, that was amazing. Thank you so much. And where can people find you or work with you?
Yeah, sure. So my website is probably the best place to start, and that is just Emma-Ritchie, Ritchie.com. I'm also on Instagram at Emma Ritchie Energy, and all the usual social platforms. But I would say my website is probably the best place to start.
Okay, great. And we'll put all of that in the show notes. So if you guys are interested in checking out more of what Emma has to say or working with her, you can do that. And thank you everybody for listening. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you on the next episode.